Hello everyone and welcome to today's edition of Africa Today with me, Hala Al-Hamalawi. We start off with a statement made during the very important visit by the Tunisian President Kais Saied to Egypt. Egypt's stance in any international arena will be our own stance. The statement was actually made by Kais Saied, the President of Tunisia, at a press conference during his visit to Cairo. And we have more details in the following report.
Tunisian President Kais Saied said on Saturday that his country would never accept Egypt's water security to be compromised. Saied's statement came during a joint press conference with the Sisi at the Al-Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace in Cairo. Prior to Saied's remarks, Sisi said that the issue of the Egyptian water security was tackled during his meeting with Saied, given that it is part of Arab national security, highlighting efforts made by Cairo to reach a fair and comprehensive agreement on the rules for filling and operating the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. The Tunisian president, who arrived on Friday for a 3-day visit to Cairo, said during the press conference that El-Sisi was speaking of fair solutions, but not at the expense of Egypt. This comes less than a week after the collapse of the latest round of the almost decade-long GERD negotiations. Last week's 3-day GERD talks, which were held in the Democratic Republic of the Congo under the auspices of the African Union, were deadlocked due to what Cairo and Khartoum described as Ethiopia's intransigence. As a result of reaching a deadlock in talks with Ethiopia, Cairo said it would head to the United Nations Security Council, along with Khartoum, to brief it on the developments of the dispute caused by the massive $4.8 billion Ethiopian hydropower project. Cairo and Khartoum have been fruitlessly negotiating for almost a decade now with Ethiopia to reach a legally binding deal on the GERD, which Addis Ababa have been constructing on the Blue Nile since 2011. While both downstream countries are seeking a legally binding agreement for filling and operating the near-complete GERD, Ethiopia, from the other hand, is seeking mere guidelines.
And to shed more light on this very important visit to Egypt by the Tunisian president, we're very much happy to have with us now over the phone Mr. Salah Abdallah, the political expert. Good day to you, Mr. Abdallah.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Sir, how do you weigh the timing of the visit by the Tunisian president to Egypt now?
Well, of course, the timing of the visit of the Tunisian President Kais Saied, is very important, and it comes in a critical time. Number one, there is many issues to be discussed between Egypt and Tunisia during that time. The first thing, number one, is the Libyan issue, which, you know, Tunisia and Egypt, they are sharing the borders with Libya. And any conflict or any troubles in Libya usually reflects itself on the border, especially in Tunisia, even more than Egypt.
Yes.
So the discussion between Egypt and Tunisia and the cooperation between Tunisia and Egypt is very important from many points of view. Number one, the information between the security system in Tunisia and Egypt is very important to share the information and to cooperate together. Yes. To control the terrorists which using the Libyan land to make troubles in the countries around Libya. Number one. Number two, to prevent some countries which are bringing the terrorists to Libya from using the Tunisian land or the Tunisian water for sending the terrorists to the inside of Libya. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, of course, the situation of the president of Tunisia towards the water security in Egypt and the Ethiopian dam was clear and evident, and is a good example to the Arab countries, to the other Arab countries, to support Egypt strongly, like what happened from Tunisia and from President Kais Saied.
Yes.
Thirdly, the economic cooperation between Tunisia and Egypt needs to be increased. Still, the economic cooperation and the trading between the two countries is very low, and it is now the time for the Egyptian investors to invest in Tunisia, and the same thing for the Tunisian, and to increase the trade between Tunisia and Egypt.
Yes.
So, of course, I consider the visit is a very important visit and in a very important time, and I admire President Qais Said for his national strong ideas and situation.
Okay. Mr. Abdullah, as an expert, as a political expert, how do you describe the ties between Egypt and Tunisia, which are not only political, but rather political, economic, and cultural as well? And the president announced the year 2021-2022 as the year of culture between Egypt and Tunisia. So how would you describe ties between Egypt and Tunisia?
Well, this is one step forward in the relation between Tunisia and Egypt. Of course, more cooperation between Tunisia and Egypt from the economic point of view and the political point of view, and from in the other aspects, scientific aspects and other aspects. Of course, is for the best of the two peoples, in the two countries. For the benefit of the people in Tunisia and for the people of Egypt, and of course for the benefit of security in the area. Where Egypt and Tunisia, of course, need peaceful area, and Libya is still a hot spot which can cause problems for both the countries. And there is other countries outside which need Libya to be a hot spot. They didn't want things or matters to go peacefully in Libya. Yes. So the efforts of Egypt and Tunisia together can help in preventing or obstacling this evil effort of the other countries.
Yes.
And in the same time, as we said, increasing the trading power and the economy between economic cooperation between Egypt and Tunisia is, as I said, for the benefit of the two countries. So what happened in this visit is a step forward for the strong and positive relation, and we hope that there will be another steps for more cooperation and for more support of both countries.
Yes. The Tunisian president, Qais Said, expressed also rejection to any compromise to Egypt's water security. He touched on the issue of Egypt's water security. How do you weigh this stance?
He was clear and frank, and he is supporting Egypt strongly. And as I said, what he did is an example to the other Arab countries which have to be clear in supporting Egypt in the problem of with Ethiopia, because still other countries, they are not clear in their own situation. President Qais Said was very clear and he was supporting Egypt frankly, and give an example to other presidents or kings or other Arab countries that the way they have to support Egypt in this problem. And I admire the way he talked about, and if all the Arabs supporting Egypt in with the same way and in a clear and frank way, things can be changed more to give Egypt their own rights. The Egyptian doesn't want anything from others. They want only their own rights in the River Nile water. They want to stop the Ethiopian, sideways or the Ethiopian using a channel which is abnormal channel. Egypt and Sudan want to stop that. That's all. So the countries who are supporting Egypt have to be frank, like what happened from Tunisia and President Qais Said.
Mr. Abdullah, Tunisia has assumed the presidency of the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member. How would this contribute to finding a solution to the issue of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam?
Well, of course, now Egypt and Sudan have to go to the Security Council to explain their own situation, and also we have to be sure, and Tunisia can play a role in that, of course. We have to be sure that the Security Council will give his issue clearly, because, you know, if it's not clear, Ethiopia can use the time for the second filling and put us in a problem. So we have to ask the Security Council to be clear that no country will do an action alone, and there is no work in the dam except after the agreement of the three countries. Of course, if we succeeded in that, it is another paper helping the Egyptian and Sudanese situation. And after that, we can, if this fails, we can go to the international court and using the diplomatic pressure with the other countries in the world. And if the Arab countries are good supporters to Egypt, they can help in the diplomatic pressure in the world to put Ethiopia in a corner and to let them know that they can't work alone and they can't push the area to other choices which can cause troubles in all East Africa.
Of course. The Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his Tunisian counterpart said that they agreed to provide all forms of support for Libya's transitional phase. How can Cairo and Tunis support Libya during the transitional phase?
Please, can you repeat this question because the voice is not clear?
Yes, sir. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his Tunisian counterpart, President Qais Said, said that they agreed to provide all forms of support for Libya's transitional phase. How can Cairo and Tunis support Libya during the transitional phase?
Libya and Tunis is the neighbors to Egypt, and Tunisia is the neighbors to Libya, and of course they have a great effort in great effect in the Libyan side. Of course, the cooperation between the countries to support the transitional period in Libya, that they need that the election can go peacefully and to reach the level that there will be a one president for Libya, and there is parliament, elected parliament, and legal government, and one army. Of course, this means that the terrorists and the expatriates will go outside Libya, and there is no other countries will put their own fingers in Libya like what's happening now. Egypt and Tunisia can use their own effort in the Libyan inside through the Libyan people, through the Libyan relations, through the cooperation, economic support and the aids and so on, through the borders, which they can open or close the borders with Libya. They have many papers in their own hands to affect the Libyan inside, to go to the correct way or to the direct way, which Egypt needs that, Tunisia needs that, and many countries, or most of the world needs that Libya go peacefully in the transitional period for a stable one country.
Yes. Mr. Salah Abdullah, our political expert, thank you very much for joining us in this edition of Africa Today. And we move on to Algeria, where the country's trade minister said that the country is to reopen its border with Libya as part of its diversification plans by becoming a hub for sub-Saharan transit trade. More details.
Mauritania, Mali and Niger, Algeria said the country is to reopen its land border with Libya and Tunisia soon. The northmost Libyan-Algerian land border crossing is the Ghadames-Debdeb crossing. The revelation was made by Algerian Trade Minister Kamel Razek, speaking on the sidelines of the opening day of the Inter-African Exchanges event organized by Condor Electronics at the International Convention Center in Algiers. Razek was quoted as saying that the opening of border crossings with neighboring countries is aimed at exporting and importing African products, and stressed that Africa is and will remain the historical and strategic depth of Algeria. He said Algeria is ready and will help African countries import their products as well as from around the world through Algeria and deliver them by road to the Algerian border. Gateway to Africa transit trade. The concept is similar to the one Libya has been talking about for decades, acting as a gateway for transit trade to and from Africa.
The Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities announced the discovery of a city dubbed the Rise of Aten, which had been under the sands for 3,000 years, dating back to the reign of Amenhotep III. Let's take a look.
The Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities announced on Thursday that an Egyptian mission under the supervision of Egyptologist Zahi Hawass discovered a city dubbed the Rise of Aten, which had been under the sands for 3,000 years, dating back to the reign of Amenhotep III. The statement, which was shared on the ministry's social media pages, adds that the largest city ever found in Egypt was founded by one of the greatest rulers of Egypt, namely of the new kingdom Amenhotep III. The latter had been the 9th king of Dynasty 18, ruling Egypt from 1391 till 1353 BC. Hawass said many foreign missions searched for this city and never found it, adding that Egyptologists began work searching for the mortuary temple of Tutankhamun because the temples of both Horemheb and Ai were found in the area. He said the city's streets are flanked by houses which some of their walls reach 3 meters high. He also said the city extends to the west, all the way to the famous Deir el-Medina. Betsy Bryan, professor of Egyptology at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, USA, described the discovery as the second most important archaeological discovery since the tomb of Tutankhamun. The city is considered a vital clue to the cultural and religious developments of the reign of Amenhotep III, whose succession would come at the hands of his son Akhenaten. The latter's ambitions had resulted in a move from the capital of Thebes to a newly built capital near contemporary Minya, Tell el-Amarna. Due to organic material from which settlements were constructed from, their survival rates into modern-day Egypt is rare. As such, along with the famed settlement of Deir el-Medina, the city's discovery can provide archaeologists with a glimpse of daily life activities in ancient times. After Hawass's team began excavating in September 2020, several areas and neighborhoods were uncovered, such as the administrative and industrial center and a bakery. The statement adds that the city is in good condition of preservation, with almost complete walls and rooms filled with tools of daily life.
And with this interesting report about Egypt's discovered city, we wrap up this edition of Africa Today. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Many thanks for watching.